Hi everyone, today we're going apple picking and I thought I'd bring you along to show you what I do with all those apples afterwards. We love to go apple picking. September is one of our favourite times of year and we just love those delicious sweet tangy apples. We get them from a pick your own farm not far from our house, about half an hour's drive, and it was such a lovely day today we thought we'd make the most of the nice weather and get out to the orchard and pick some apples.
Which ones you got?
Higher one.
As you can see, I've got a lot of apples to get through here. So the first thing we're making is applesauce, and I'm going to do this in my Instant Pot. Now we started off peeling and coring the apples with this handy little machine, but it's not as handy as it looks. It kind of slides around the work surface. We didn't manage to do very many apples this way. In the end, I just reverted to my peeler and my corer and my knife, and it was a lot easier. I just put all of those apple pieces into my Instant Pot with a little bit of water, a cinnamon stick, and I let it cook for 30 minutes on high pressure. It came out a little bit liquid in the end, so the next day I put it just on the sauté function and just let some of the water evaporate to make it a little bit thicker. And it was quite tart because these apples are rubinette apples they're a quite sharp flavour, so I think that we'll probably be adding sugar when we eat it. This is a couple of days later and I'm going to be making apple tart and apple cake. And the first thing I'm doing is getting my shortcrust pastry ready. And I'm doing this with some sourdough starter to just get a little bit of that fermentation in there, which is better for your gut. The recipe is basically the same as shortcrust pastry. I'm just replacing some of the flour and all of the water by my sourdough starter. The first thing you have to do is mix together the flour and the butter to make a breadcrumb texture. I like to do this in my KitchenAid because I feel like it saves me a lot of time, but you can just do it with your fingertips and rub in the butter to the flour that way. As always, I add a little bit of salt to every pastry or cake that I make. I'm just adding in the sourdough starter, which is what's going to bring this pastry together. I'm watching it closely because I don't want the pastry to overmix. If it does overmix, it will become pretty tough and won't be as crumbly. Now I'm wrapping it up with cling film and popping it in the fridge I think it was in there for about 20 minutes, maybe half an hour, and that was just the right amount of time. You'll see later it was really easy to roll out. Now I'm onto the apple cake while the pastry is resting in the fridge. So I'm not even trying to use my little machine. I've just got my peeler and my corer, and that's going to be fine. So the corer actually splits up the apple into 8 pieces, and then I'm going to be cutting each of those pieces into 2 or 3. We need quite large cubes for this cake. I'm leaving all of those apples in a bowl while I clear up and get on with the cake batter. The ingredients you need for this cake are 6 medium apples, peeled and cored and cubed, 180 grams of rice flour, 120 grams of almond flour, 50 grams of maizena or corn flour. I didn't have any of that this day, so I just added a bit more rice flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 120 milliliters of oil, 4 eggs, 225 grams of sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. This recipe has just gone up on the blog, so if you want a printable version, you can get it over there. I'll put the link in the description box below. Again, I like to use my KitchenAid for this, but you can easily do it by hand because it's a very loose batter. So you put all of the ingredients in at once and beat it until it's a smooth batter. I think I forgot to say that this is a gluten and dairy-free recipe, so that's great because everybody in our family can enjoy it. And what I love about this recipe in particular is how the sweet softness of the batter contrasts with the sharpness of the apples, and the apples that we got this time are really quite sharp, so that contrast comes out even more. Now I'm just greasing this springform tin, and I think in the future I will probably line it too, because it was really difficult to get out. Even though the tin was really well greased and even though it was a springform tin, I still couldn't get the cake off the bottom. So that's fine, we just were careful when we were cutting it. But if you want to present it nicely, then I would probably use a liner on the bottom as well. You need to add your apples to the batter, stir it until they're really well mixed up, and then pour it into the cake tin. see that there's a lot of fruit here for the amount of batter, but that's what we want. We want an apple-packed cake. Now I'm stepping away from the traditional French apple cake recipe here, and I'm going to sprinkle some brown sugar on the top for an extra bit of sweetness and a little bit of cinnamon for that wonderful autumn spice. Into the oven it goes at about 180 degrees Celsius fan. I cooked this for 40 minutes, but when I cut into it, it was a bit runny. So I think next time I'm going to up the timing to 50 minutes. And now I'm on to the apple tart. So I'm preparing apples again. You've seen me do that a lot this video. This time I'm slicing them. So I've used my peeler and corer, and I'm just slicing each eighth of an apple into half so that I get nice thinnish slices. I'm making sure that my tin is really well greased so that the pastry doesn't stick to it. I'm putting quite a lot of flour on the surface because I thought that the pastry was a bit wet and I didn't want it to stick. But I think I could have got away with less because in the end the pastry, when it came out of the fridge, was a really good texture, and you'll see it rolled out really nicely. Now when it comes to rolling out pastry, I'm pretty hopeless. Same goes for pizza. I really can never get it round. So if you have any tips, let me know in the comments below. I'd be really happy to learn from you. How do you roll pastry out so that it stays in a round shape? I don't know. I can't do it. Anyway, this pastry turned out pretty well. It was a really nice texture. It wasn't too hard coming out of the fridge. I think it was because I only left it in there for about 20 minutes or 30 minutes. So it was a lot easier than when it's been in the fridge for longer. And it stayed together really nicely. So I'll be using this recipe again, definitely. And I'm just putting it into the tin now and pushing it down so that it really covers the whole of the tin. And I'm going to prick it with a fork. I don't know if I should have done this because in the end the caramel kind of flowed out of the bottom of the tart and it ended up sticking to the tin. So maybe I shouldn't have pricked it with a fork, or maybe I should have blind baked it first. I don't know. Let me know what you think. So now I'm placing the apples onto the pastry. And I have a son who's very artistic and he loves doing this kind of thing, but he was at school, so I had to do it myself, and I'm not very artistic or very patient, so I did my best. It turned out looking pretty good, I think. The whole while that I was making these cakes and tarts and compotes and things, I was thinking, how on earth are we going to eat all of this? But in the end, my friends ended up coming to our rescue that evening and looking after the children for us because we had school meetings at the same time. So this turned out really well. They had a delicious apple tart as a thank you. I'm sprinkling the apples with brown sugar. I've no idea how much I put on there. I didn't measure it. And some cinnamon. I can't get enough cinnamon with apples in the autumn. It's just my favourite flavour. And I'm adding some little knobs of butter on the top just to make it even more delicious, buttery, yum. Love it. I cut off the excess pastry because it's easier, I think, to cut it before it's cooked. Even though it does shrink a bit, it makes such a mess when you cut it after it's been cooked. I prefer to do it this way. And there you go, a simple, delicious apple tart. Into the oven it goes at 180 degrees for about 30 minutes. I take it out when the pastry looks golden and the apples are nice and bubbly. So there you are, applesauce, apple tart, apple cake, and all that from one day picking apples in the orchard. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you want more content like this. I make videos every week on homemade food from scratch, allergy-friendly meal ideas, and lots of sourdough. See you next time. Bye!